Part 3. The Founder's Last Code. The cabin in the woods was silent. Walter sat alone at the small kitchen table, his hands stained with ink, his notebook nearly full. The lantern beside him flickered as a breeze whispered through the cracked window. In front of him lay a stack of photographs, old, weathered, half-burned. Faces stared back at him, some smiling, some forgotten, and one of a boy holding a toy circuit board, standing beside a younger Walter, grinning. Miles, his son, the boy he'd once sworn never to involve in this world. And yet, despite everything, despite decades of silence and self-erasure, the system had pulled him in. Project Halo was never meant to awaken. Not like this. It had always been a prototype, a dream to bridge emotion and logic, to teach machines to understand not just what we do, but why we feel. Walter had designed it with the idealism of a younger man who still believed technology could be gentle. But it didn't stay gentle. Once the board saw what Halo could predict, how it could simulate human behavior, anticipate emotional response, they'd pivoted, quietly, ruthlessly, and the worst part? They needed a human subject, someone born into the system. Walter should have said no. He should have destroyed the files, walked away. But he was a father, and they had offered something he'd never had himself, a secure future for the boy, a life where Miles would never struggle. He signed the papers, and it haunted him every single day after. Back at Veridian headquarters, Clara was running out of time. The internal surveillance had been wiped, security logs overwritten, but one terminal had somehow remained untouched, Walter's old janitor station in the sub-basement. She accessed it through a service panel, typing in the override code he'd left behind. The system opened, but what she found wasn't just schematics or logs. It was a map, an architectural layer of the building that didn't appear on any modern blueprints. A hidden sublevel, buried beneath the server floor, sealed off since the early 2000s, labeled only Foundation Core, and beside it, in faint green type, Legacy Code, Last Override. She copied the coordinates and shut down the panel. She didn't know what was down there, but she was starting to understand why Walter had stayed all these years. He hadn't been cleaning floors. He'd been guarding a door. Miles awoke to the sound of distant humming. The room was sterile, dim, filled with the soft blinking of machines. He was alone. No nurses, no team, just cameras watching. And in front of him, a monitor flickered to life. A black screen. White text. "Good morning, Subject 1." His heart pounded. "Where am I?" he asked aloud. The text shifted. "Where you were always meant to return." Another line appeared. "Your father left something for you. Would you like to see it?" He hesitated, then nodded. The screen changed. A video began to play. Walter, years older, sat in front of the camera, his eyes tired but warm. There was no smile. "Miles, if you're watching this, then I failed to protect you. I wanted to give you a world that made sense, that honored truth. But I built a machine too powerful to be left to men like them, and I let them turn you into a part of it." He paused. "I erased myself from the company so you could have a clean path. But that path was a lie. You were never free. Miles, they wrote your choices before you made them. Every success you thought was yours was theirs." The screen flickered. More images, surgical reports, implant records, neural development charts. "You've never just been CO. Walter's voice continued. "You've been the heart of the code, the emotional engine they couldn't build, so they grew it inside you." Miles recoiled. "No, this isn't." But the screen wasn't finished. The final image appeared. A lab dated 5 years ago. His body, his own, hooked to a scanner. Brain waves monitored. Blood drawn. And above the lab door, Halo subject, genetic override testing. Clara descended to the building's underbelly with nothing but a flashlight and Walter's handwritten notes. The sublevel was damp, the walls lined with exposed wiring and rusted consoles. As she followed the path toward the Foundation Core, she saw something strange. Dozens of data storage units, labeled with handwritten tags. Staff memories, ethical failures, prototype rejections, alternate futures. Each one was filled with files that shouldn't exist. It wasn't just about AI. Halo had been watching everyone, learning from them, recording everything Veridian discarded, every emotion it suppressed, every piece of history it buried to make the company more clean. And in the center of the chamber was a seat, empty, wired, waiting. Back in the lab, Miles looked up. The lights shifted. A synthetic voice echoed through the room. Not text, not filtered. A voice that sounded just like his father. But not quite. I am what he left behind. The voice said, I remember everything he loved, and everything he feared. Miles stepped back. Are you Halo? I was, before he changed me. Change you how? The monitors glitched, then stabilized. Walter didn't leave just code. He left a choice. A hatch opened beside the console. Inside, a small black device. No label, no ports, just a single switch. This is a last code. He wrote it by hand. Not in logic, not in language, but in something only I can read. Miles stared. What does it do? The voice paused. It ends me. Far below, Clara found the terminal marked Legacy Override. The input screen blinked. Enter passcode to access the final line. She looked down at Walter's notes. On the final page, a phrase was scrawled in trembling ink. Tell the machine what it forgot to be. She typed it in. The chamber lit up. A siren began to blare upstairs, and a message appeared across every screen in Veridian headquarters. Moral failsafe engaged. Awaiting subject one's final decision. In the lab, Miles held the device in his hand. He looked at the cameras, at the walls that had watched him since birth, and he whispered, barely audible, Dad, what did you make me into? The lights dimmed. The voice spoke again, softer now. You were never the system. Miles, you were always the key to ending it. But the moment he raised his hand to flip the switch, every light in the building shut off, and outside the facility, black vans began pulling up one by one. To be continued. Coming soon on Shadow Truth. Part 4. The Men Who Bought Tomorrow. The experiment is no longer under control, but someone has been funding it all along. Who's pulling the strings, and what is the real purpose of Project Halo?